let's talk about the pivot and the challenges and the deals. Maybe Chris, you had something specifically in mind. You can kind of lead this conversation because I know you guys have been working on some of these deals.
Sure. I do want to because Mike knows this, so I'm not saying it because he's listening, but I always say how he and others in the community, Rick does it, the coaches do this well, and that is they carefully put aside funds as they have payday ones and they plan accordingly. So Mike's going to talk about a pivot that if he didn't do that, or a curveball that if he didn't do that, would scare the shit out of some of you guys. It would financially. But instead, he was not only relaxed, he made more money because of it. So Mike, if you could go through your sort of what some people would call a default or a bad thing and how you turned it into a really good thing because you planned.
Sure. Yeah, it was a property that was, I want to say almost 3 hours away from me. And it was a trek to get there. You know, it was a remote property on, I believe it was 7 or 8 acres.
Is this the husband and wife one right? You're doing that one?
Oh, which one did, yeah, this is the one that we had the tenant go in there and they turned it into like a grow house.
Was that the one where one of them passed away?
No.
I wanted to do that one because it was your first deal,
away?
Right? Yeah.
I could do that one. Okay. I've only had 2 bad ones. It's not bad, but they actually was happy with them that they turned out that way because I made more money. But anyways, so it actually was my third take-in.
Oh, third.
It was my third take-in, and this young couple moved into the house. They put down, I want to say 22,000 to move up front, and 3 or 4 months in, his wife, I think it was his girlfriend at the time, she passed away. And he couldn't bear to be in the house anymore because it was something they bought together, and he just wanted to leave. So he stopped making payments and he moved out. He moved out rather quickly. You know, I want to say.
Wasn't he also growing illegally?
You know what? He was starting to. He was gonna start to. So it was so early in the process that it was difficult to. I mean, I didn't catch it in time, obviously, but the main reason why he moved was because of that. So I went over to. So she passed away. He moved out within, I think it was about 45 days. He didn't, overdo it by staying in the house. He moved out. He lost his deposit. He didn't get any of it back. And then I cleaned up the house. It wasn't bad. I just cleaned it up a little bit and put it back on the market and sold it to a young family who, it was a better fit, right? It was a better buyer overall, and they were very happy with the house. The wife was crying when I was handing over the keys. It was an awesome experience to go through to change someone's life, right, in a very positive way. So things turned out for the better, really, for that property. That house actually cashed out too, but they followed every direction, every paper and application that we needed, and everything every step that we've asked them to do, they completed it on time. And those are the buyers you want, right? Those are the ones who are serious. Those are the ones who really want to get to the finish line and complete their dream of buying a property, right? Otherwise, where they probably felt like they wouldn't be able to get one, right, without this program. They were living in an apartment, all stuffed with 3 kids in there. So
Mike, you had there's a gap here, right? So let's talk about that. When they moved out,
yep,
you had a gap. You had to pay 1 or 2 payments. I forget.
It was I had to pay 1 payment while he was in there, and then another payment while I was marketing it. I would say maybe 2, maybe 3 the most, but no matter what, I got it back, right? Because I got a new deposit from the new buyer that they put down 16,000 to move in. So I got 21 and 16, guys, and then I made 3 payments on that property, which was probably in the 2,600 range. So I was conservative up front. I usually didn't spend the money right away when I got a payday 1 from a buyer. I would put it aside just for, just being conservative with it all. Just want to see how the buyer pans out in the beginning. and I definitely had the cash to cover whatever I needed to put a new buyer in there. So it ended up working out very well, guys. It's a great story. The family ended up purchasing the house. In the end, they cashed us out, and now they have a beautiful 2-story home with their 3 kids. So it was an awesome story.
And you had how much with the seller, and how quick did that first buyer default?
Yeah, I had I have 48 months. It was a 48-month term. It was a vacant property. It was expired. You couldn't sell the property, and it was like 4 months, Chris. It was like 3 or 4 months.
That was quick.
When they, yeah, it was very quick when she
passed away.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. Jeez.
So because it was only 4 months, Mike put another tenant buyer in it. If it was further along, could he have sold conventionally? Sure. Could he have also called the seller and renegotiated the term? Sure. Like, all these things are pivots that you can and will run across, and we'll help you with them.
Yeah. I mean, it was so early in the deal, I didn't want to renegotiate with the seller because we just got the property, just got a buyer in there,
Yeah.
But
you didn't have to. You had plenty of time.
I wasn't worried about it.
Yeah, you had plenty of time. You didn't have to negotiate. I meant if it was a lot later. Now, Zach, do we want to go into the other one, actually? Because Mike, he had another headache that was a headache, but he profited nicely on it. But do you want to go? We have time,
He's
right?
got a question. So if people have questions before we...
Sorry.
We're going to say the word pivot. Let's see if we can count how many pivots are said in this quick segment.
My question, Mike, in that case, did you even have to tell the seller something went wrong, or did you just go get a new buyer?
You know what? In a normal case, I wouldn't tell him. You wouldn't need to, because you just replace the buyer with somebody else. Your contract is with the seller. You're working directly with them. They don't need to know what's going on with the buyer, right? But in this case, he was close friends with the neighbor. The neighbor saw the ambulance go over there. There was like a whole deal. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So like, he found out through his buddy. So I just kept the communication open with them and just said, yeah, it's not a problem. We're going to cover the payments. They're actually going to move out, and I'm going to put a new buyer in there. I'm not worried about it at all. So, I had the confidence that we're still going to pull through with our agreement.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions on that particular deal from anyone? You can type in the Q&A or raise your hand.
No questions on a headache deal. Okay.
Kyle.
Sorry, my fingers burnt. Hey, Mike, good talking to you, because you talked about this deal and then you kind of talked about another one. Is there anything or strategy that you do now with your buyers that are in place to kind of keep tabs on them? Do you check in on them every 6 months? Is there certain things that you're doing just as preventive measures for the future?
Yeah, I would definitely check in with them. You can always do a walkthrough of the property. Just give them a notice, and you can go and check up on the property. You're definitely able to do that. Of course, go according to your state's laws, right? With the notices. But it was just a unique circumstance with those 2 properties. First one was so early on, and the second one, it was during the COVID time where it happened. We were kind of really staying away from everybody, so it was hard. It wasn't pressed to go out. Plus, it was 3 hours away, and it was a long trip, so it was more so my fault. I should have been more on top of that property before it got out of hand. But yes, definitely I would stay on top of these properties. Just part of the protocol. Just follow the protocol.
Kyle, this is why it's so important. Steve had a property in Connecticut where he didn't go by. I remember saying to him, lesson learned, these things are going to be stackable lessons, but it's not something you didn't hear in the community. He said, I know. Well, the guy, he's supposed to do all these really good fix-ups. He made a complete mess. He cut down trees and left the lumber there, and he started a porch and then ended it, and it's like off to no, like crazy stuff. But if you stopped by, you would have caught it, right? Not wait till the lease is over and go, holy shit, if this guy doesn't buy, I'm stuck. If they buy, great. But you don't want them to do that stuff. It's right in their agreement. They can't unless they go through you. So lessons learned. It's not the end of the world, but it wastes time, energy, effort, and money when that happens, if you don't catch it.
Great question.
Thank you.
Hit up.
So what if that happens? That the scenario you just mentioned. What if you plan a visit and you show up and they're in the process of doing that? Like, they cut down half the lawn, they cut down trees, they're starting to build a porch, they're painting the house, and it's just a mess. What's your approach to that?
Well, they're in default in the agreement. They have to go through you. They have to be licensed contractors, etc. So you'd have your attorney send them a letter and start a
Okay.
process, because you can't get it for non-payment. You can get it for default in the agreement. Or you catch them on it and say, we got to rectify this. Here's why. You just lost your option to buy.
Yeah.
You
So
lost your option. You're against the agreement.
Would you rather try to save the deal? Would you change the deal, or try to get him out and just get a new buyer in there and get a new deposit down?
If they're current, you're asking me our personal opinion, just so everybody knows. You can, jump is. But if I was advising you, I tell you, if they're current, and the only issue is they're doing stupid things, we got to rectify that and get it fixed and tell them to stop and fix, get dates and get accountability, and then follow it up with an attorney letter.
Okay. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, you bet. The short answer is, guys, when you have these deals, just 1-800 call a coach, right? But hopefully you won't have some of these. But you do more than a dozen deals, you're gonna have stuff get curveballed at you, thrown at you, curveballed at you.
Curveball day. Now we're talking, Chris. Got some Zach-isms going on. This is good.
2.5 days. All right.
Mike, talk about the other deal. Talk about your growing operation.
Yeah, that was a wild one. So yeah, like I said, it was during the time period where people were really kind of staying remote, away from everybody, and so I didn't make the rounds like I should have on that property. And it was on that 7-acre land in a remote area, and he ended up putting up a greenhouse outside, a huge one, and he was doing like a commercial operation out of there, selling marijuana, so or growing it at least. And I got contacted by the authorities about it, so I found out the wrong way, or the worst way possible. So we had to take action quickly. They were already out of the house. I mean, they weren't there anymore at that time, and so I had to go and take over.
Mike, tell them how they found it.
With the helicopter, they usually go over and they scan the areas in the mountains over there, and they see the greenhouses from above, and if you don't have your permit number on top of the greenhouse, they flag it and they go check it out. So he basically ratted himself out through the inspection there.
All right.
Sorry, we got a little too deep into that.
No, it's good. It's just hard to believe.
I didn't know that until this happened. So that's
Mike, did you own that property, or was this a lease purchase?
So this was structured like an owner finance, but the owner didn't want to give up title. So it was free and clear. I got full principal pay down on every payment. It was principal only payments. So it was structured as an owner financing through a lease purchase, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, makes total sense. I was curious on that because we've had some similar things where the FBI contacted us, but we had a lease purchase, so we actually had to hear it from the owner, not from us. So some of the points are, number one, Mike, although he's dealing with this hassle, it's a forced bank account. He's making the payment, but it's going towards principal.
Yep.
So not a terrible thing, right? It could be a lot worse on that as well.
What was the payday 3 cash out, Mike? You turned that around. You sold it conventionally because you didn't have time to screw around. What was your payday 3?
I think the total deal was 6 figures. It was like $110,000 or something like that. Payday 3 it was $1,500 a month, principal only payments. It was a big deal.
I'm sure speaking for everyone, but I'll deal with a little bit of weed for 6 figures.
Yeah.
All right. On top of that, guys, what did we talk about yesterday, Zach and I? We told you why you should go get funding aside from associate funding you might want to do. We told you why to go build business credit and have that sitting on the sidelines. Then you won't stress because the pot of gold's still good at the end. The deal we're going to talk about in a little while, the associate gave up. That's how we ended up with this deal. He gave up because he wasn't structured properly. Mike was structured properly. So he worked his way through it. It was sucked, but then he got 6 figures still on the deal.
Yeah, so this buyer put down, I think, close to $40,000 at that point. He didn't care, right? He's running a business out of there. I mean, I didn't know until his background check came clear. Everything came clear. But anyways, so he walked away from all that. He was on time every month, of course. I wasn't in bad financial position on this property. Everything was on time and in a great position. It was just what he was doing. So he had to walk away from all of that, of course. So that was extra money that I kept as well, and all that principal pay down that I built over those years.
And then the sellout.
And then this, yeah,
Payday
the seller
three.
help too. Yep.
Somebody was asking when you said it was structured like owner financing through a lease purchase. Could you just explain that comment?
Yeah, so through owner financing, the title transfers, right? And the seller becomes the bank in that case. They're in first position. So in this case, the seller didn't want to sign over the title. So what I did was I still structured the payments and everything the same way, but the title didn't transfer. So I was still getting full principal pay down every month, and I got that credited at the end of the deal when I cashed out.
Yeah, so mainly the principal pay down component, guys, is what he was talking about when he
Just
said it's
credited
structured like.
instead of being actual principal. It's just credited.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
credited.
Don in Pennsylvania did that because he didn't want to incur the transfer tax in and out of a deal like Mallory talked about yesterday in PA. So he would do that. He would do principal only, lease purchase, so he wouldn't incur the tax. Now, in my opinion, the tax would have been far outweighed by the depreciation. Mike's was for a better decision. The guy wouldn't do it.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I got two questions for you, Mike. If your name wasn't on the title, how did they know you even own the house? And did it cost you anything to clean up the greenhouse?
Yeah, so they actually contacted them first because I wasn't on title. So they contacted them first, and then I got the phone call from the seller, and then from that point on, they contacted me directly because I was dealing with it all as the management company or the one who was in the middle of it all. So they didn't have to deal with that piece, but I found out through them initially, and then spoke directly to the authorities.
And
Mike,
did it
they
cost
must. Sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, what did it cost you to clean up the greenhouse, or what the authorities want you to do? I'm just curious.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
What did the authorities actually want you to do? What did they expect?
Well,
They wanted him to
had-
smoke all the inventory and
I
then.
was wondering.
No, they took all the plants, they took all that. But anyways, they wanted me to basically fix the property back up to code because they messed with the electrical wiring too and all that kind of stuff. So I had to get an electrician out there to fix that. Then I had to get someone out to inspect it to make sure it was fixed property, and then I had to pay for there's some fines too that went along with it. They weren't big, but I had to just pay all that stuff, and then to reconnect the property to the power because they cut it off, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just a bunch of small things, a lot of small headaches
Right.
that I had to deal with. But in the end, I was still in it. I had so much money into it that I was willing to, of course, do it all and then get my, like Chris said, the pot of gold at the end.
Okay.
I totally forgot what I was going to say, but that's okay. It must not have been important.
Oh, it's all good. It's just these things happen consistently. You're going to deal with some pivots and some challenges. Maybe you're not going to deal with weed. We dealt with like the FBI calling us one time because these amazing tenant buyers ended up turning out to be not amazing and were like kingpins, even though they had no record.
They were great with us.
That's the thing. Yeah, they even did a testimonial that was on our website forever. These things happen, right? Because if somebody, there's only so much you can do at the end of the day. So you do a background check. I mean, you check to make sure they have legitimate work. Like, other than if they do and they're still doing something on the side that they've never been caught for, then you're never going to know until they get caught for it. So I know it might sound crazy when you say like FBI calls or people are flying over and they're doing a grow house. You don't know because they never get caught. They could be awesome buyers, right? They could have great money, make good income, have good down payments, and their background check is clean. It's just you just got to deal with it sometimes.
Dak, I want to say this to everyone listening. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a real estate event where you go and they tell you the problems that can happen. We're probably the only ones, guys, because most people won't tell you that because they want it to sound fluffy and great, so you join them. We're going to tell you all this stuff so that you don't have to go through the same headaches. I had a very well-known name, and you would know the person, say to me, when I first wrote the book in 2017, why do you have a chapter that says what can go wrong? You're going to scare people. like literally, because all they care about, I won't even say if it's a he or she, because you'll know, but all they care about is the warm and fuzzies, so that you jump at what they're doing. Whereas we care about making sure you do deals, and because of that, we got to tell you what's going to go wrong so we can help you through it.